Imagine a single battle, not just for a piece of land, but a battle that could decide the future of an entire continent. The language, the laws, everything.
That's exactly what we're looking at today. We're in 732 AD, and two global powers are about to collide in what we now call France.
On one side, you have this immense, expanding empire that seems unstoppable.
And on the other, a Frankish force basically fighting for its life. We're going to break down the Battle of Tours, or Poitiers, and figure out how the Frankish leader, Charles Martel, managed to pull off one of history's biggest upsets.
Okay, so let's set the stage. The invaders, the Umayyad Caliphate, you really have to grasp the sheer scale of this force Martel was facing.
Oh, it's hard to overstate it. I mean, their expansion was just breathtakingly fast. They'd swept across all of North Africa, and just before this, they'd conquered the Iberian Peninsula.
So modern-day Spain and Portugal.
Exactly. They were this unified, incredibly successful military machine. It really seemed like nothing could stop them.
And that momentum was their whole strategy, right?
Yeah.
It was all built on speed.
Absolutely. The goal was simple: push north. The Frankish Kingdom was wealthy, it had resources, and they wanted it. Their whole army was built around light cavalry, horsemen who could move incredibly fast, hit hard, and then just disappear before you could organize a defense.
A shock and awe approach.
You could say that. It was designed for speed.
So who was the general leading this force?
A very capable man named Abdul Rahman al-Ghafiqi. He wasn't just a general, he was the governor of Al-Andalus, so he knew how to run things.
Okay.
And he'd already had success. He defeated smaller Frankish groups in the south of Gaul. His plan was always to overwhelm the enemy quickly, go for the rich cities, the monasteries, where the money was.
And he was moving so fast people didn't even see him coming.
Most didn't, not until it was way too late.
So you have this massive, fast, centralized empire. And on the other side, Charles Martel. But here's the thing that's so interesting politically. He wasn't the king.
No, and that's a crucial point. Martel was what they called the mayor of the palace. He wasn't royalty, but he controlled everything that mattered: the government, the money, the army.
So if we were to explain it today, it's like the king was the chairman of the board, a figurehead.
Right.
And Martel was the CEO. He was the one actually running the show.
That is a perfect analogy. He had the real power, and he had a reputation, which you can hear in his nickname, Martel.
The hammer.
The hammer. He was known for crushing his enemies.
But what's so smart about him is that he didn't just rely on being tough. He was a planner. He knew he couldn't stop the Umayyad cavalry with the old Frankish army.
Right, which was basically just farmers who'd pick up a spear when the call went out, part-time soldiers.
He needed professionals.
And a professional army costs a lot of money. And it also requires a huge political change.
Exactly. So what did he do? He spent years seizing land, a lot of it from the church actually, to fund a permanent standing army.
Which was completely revolutionary at the time. I mean, land was power. By taking that land, he was taking that power for himself so he could pay and train soldiers who were loyal only to him.
So he was building an army that answered to him, not to some local lord.
It was a political earthquake, really. He was centralizing military power. So when Abdul Rahman showed up, Martel wasn't scrambling to find troops. He had a disciplined, organized fighting force ready to go.
And he didn't wait for them to come knocking. He chose the battlefield. The clash happens in 732 between the cities of Tours and Poitiers.
And the location was it was a strategic masterpiece. This road was the main route straight into the Frankish heartland.
So if he lost here...
there was nothing left to stop them. It was everything on the line.
And he specifically picked a spot. A high plain covered in trees. The trees were the secret weapon, weren't they?
They absolutely were. See, the Umayyad cavalry was brilliant at flanking at surrounding you.
Heating you from the sides.
Exactly. But by setting up with trees on both sides of his army, Martel basically used nature as a wall. The cavalry couldn't circle around. They were forced to attack him head on.
Which brings us to this incredible clash of military styles. You've got the Umayyads, who are all about mobility, hit and run.
Yeah, light armor, fast horses, attacking with spears and bows from a distance, then galloping away to charge again. Their whole game was speed.
And then you have Martel's guys, heavy infantry. They were like the tanks of the 8th century.
Literally.
Huh.
Thick mail armor, huge shields, fighting on foot with heavy swords. They didn't really have a strong cavalry, so their entire strategy depended on strength and, maybe most importantly, discipline.
They had to be an immovable object.
Exactly. An immovable object against this incredibly fast-moving force.
So how do you do that? How do you make men on foot into an immovable object? This is where Martel's genius comes in. He uses an ancient strategy, the phalanx.
It's a formation that had been around for centuries, since the Greeks, but he adapted it perfectly for this fight.
Can you just paint a picture of what that looked like?
Okay, so imagine thousands of soldiers packed shoulder to shoulder. Their big shields are overlapping, creating this literal wall of wood and metal. And from behind it, they're holding out long spears.
So the horses just can't get through.
They can't. A horse isn't going to charge into a solid wall of spear points. It just won't. So right away, the Umayyads' biggest advantage, their speed is gone. It's neutralized.
The sources from the time describe it as a wall of ice. It's such a powerful image.
It is. But you have to think about the discipline that takes to stand there for hours while horsemen are charging at you again and again. If one man breaks and runs, the whole thing could fall apart.
And this wasn't a quick fight. They apparently faced off for almost a week before the main battle.
Right. Abdul Rahman was hesitant. He was a smart commander. He saw this infantry line on high ground protected by trees and knew it was going to be a brutal slog, not the quick victory he was used to.
So the stalemate finally breaks on the 7th day. It's hours of just brutal, grinding combat. The Umayyad cavalry just keeps charging the Frankish line, trying to find any weakness.
But that wall of ice held. And this is where Martel's other advantage comes into play. Intelligence.
He knew the land.
He knew the land, and he had local scouts. The Umayyads were deep in enemy territory. Martel, on the other hand, knew every forest path.
And that let him do two things, right? He got to pick the battlefield.
Yes, and maybe even more important, he used the forests to hide just how big his army was. Abdur Rahman probably thought he was facing a much smaller force. He didn't realize until it was too late that he was up against the entire professional Frankish military.
Wow, so the surprise was total.
It put huge pressure on the Umayyad command.
So the battle is raging, the line is holding, the Umayyads are getting nowhere, and then the whole thing turns on a rumor, on a very human emotion, greed.
It is the perfect example of how psychology can win a battle. A rumor starts spreading through the Umayyad ranks, maybe started by Martel's scouts, we don't know for sure.
And the rumor is what?
That Frankish troops had circled around behind them and were attacking their main camp.
The camp. Why was the camp so important?
Because that's where all the loot was, all the gold, all the silver they had captured on their campaign. For many of those cavalrymen, protecting their personal fortune suddenly became more important than winning the battle.
So they panicked. In the middle of the fight, they break off and start galloping back to the camp to save their stuff.
Which creates instant chaos. The rest of the army sees their comrades turning and riding away, and they think it's a full retreat.
The whole thing just unravels.
It completely dissolves. An army built on cohesion and speed suddenly had none. And in the middle of all that confusion, Abdul Rahman al-Ghafiqi is killed trying to rally his men.
Their commander is gone.
Leaderless, disorganized, they had no choice but to withdraw under the cover of darkness.
So the next morning, the Franks are gearing up for another day of fighting.
And they look out, and nothing. The camp is empty. The Umayyads were gone, retreating south toward the Pyrenees Mountains.
Okay, wait. So Martel just won this huge victory. Why didn't he chase them? Finish them off. Isn't that what you're supposed to do?
It shows you what a brilliant and maybe cautious strategist he was. His army was exhausted. They were battered. Chasing a fast cavalry force across open country would have been incredibly risky.
He could have turned a win into a loss.
Easily. So he made the calculated decision to secure the victory he already had, keep his army intact, consolidate his power, and let the enemy run. It was about the long game, not short-term glory.
And that retreat was it. It basically marked the end of the major Umayyad push into the Frankish Kingdom.
And the historical significance. You really can't overstate it. Many historians see this as one of the most important battles ever. If Martel had lost, the entire cultural, political, and religious map of Europe would look completely different.
It preserved the Frankish state. It drew a line in the sand that defined the Middle Ages.
And for Martel personally, it cemented his legacy. He wasn't just the mayor of the palace anymore. He was the savior of his people. He used that prestige to unite the Franks and lay the groundwork for his family's dynasty.
The Carolingian dynasty. His grandson was Charlemagne, the first emperor in the West since the fall of Rome. That entire shift, that consolidation of power, it all started here with this battle.
And the military lesson is just timeless. Disciplined infantry, using the terrain, using strategy, can beat a faster, more mobile force. The hammer proved that a good plan beats pure speed.
So the Battle of Tours wasn't just a military victory. It was a single moment where one leader's preparation and a simple wall of ice secured the future of a kingdom that would become the heart of Western Europe for centuries.
It really makes you think. A single day, a single choice, and the map of the world changes. Good luck with your studies.